Most people remember Ren and Stimpy for the cartoon, but when I was a kid, I had no idea it was even a cartoon. You see, we didn't even have Nickelodeon when I was growing up. All I ever knew about was the game on the Sega Genesis, Stimpys Invention. In this platformer adventure, Stimpy invents a machine, a Mutate-o-matic. Anyways, it's a machine that can turn garbage into food apparently. The machine, however, ends up exploding, scattering all the parts everywhere. It's up to you to collect the parts so you can turn the machine off. There's a beaver, a gizmo, TV, gauge, and of course, you can't have your Mutate-o-matic without a thingy. According to the manual, this explosion has crazed the whole town. Kind of a dumb plot if you ask me, but what do you expect? It's a game about these two right here. The game allows you to change the difficulty. I personally don't think the game is very hard, but my opinion honestly shouldn't matter. I've played this my whole life, just about. The game's not very long, but just in case you can't finish it in one sitting, there's even a password system. If you're familiar with the cartoon, you can expect the same kind of weirdness here. There's a variety of things these two can do. You can pause the game to switch between characters. They each have their own attacks. For example, Ren uses a fly swatter while he's alone, but if you're Stimpy, he's gonna use a towel as a whip. While together, they have special moves they can perform. Stimpy can use Ren as a boomerang, throw Ren up in an arch, use him as a croquet ball, pole vault to get over gaps, twist him like a helicopter to get higher, use him as a shovel, and force a belch out of him. While using Ren, you can perform a Heimlich on Stimpy to force a hairball projectile, throw Stimpy's nose in an arch, use him as a bowling ball, ride him like a horse to get over gaps, squeeze his stomach hard so you can fart your way up to hard to reach spaces, use him as a jackhammer to break ground, you can even slap him silly. Yeah, me and my cousin would always fight over who got to use Ren because of that last one. Which reminds me, there's even a 2-player co-op mode. It's pretty reliant on teamwork though. You both obviously share the same screen, so you need to keep the same pace and not leave each other behind. They even make you share a health bar, and you need to know who's gonna use their special and when. When they said the town was crazed, they weren't kidding. Everything is out to get you. Both living things and inanimate objects. Lawnmowers, screaming eyeballs, these green balls, little monkeys, big monkeys, firemen, birds that like to take a shit on you, leaking Ren statues, hippos, wrestlers, crying eyeballs, animal control workers, mailboxes that shoot mail at you, this really strong looking thing, pink flamingos, one of those birds that Homer tried to have do all his work for him that one time, jackhammers, bulldogs, crows, rolling logs, among many other things. There is a total of 6 levels. Most of these contain 3 stages. The game starts off in the neighborhood. This neighborhood is so dangerous. There's holes in the ground that you need to avoid. Who knows how deep they are? Luckily, Powdered Toast Man will save you at the cost of some health if you happen to fall into any of these pits. Our duo appear to be going over to their neighbor's home, Mr. Horse. This horse appears to have some guests, these green balls that we mentioned earlier. Say, I wonder how he feels about them being over.
No sir, I don't like it.
For some reason, our heroes are going inside of his freezer. While inside, we have to avoid all the food that's come to life. Ah, there's the beaver, just gotta avoid the bouncing walruses. Once the beaver is obtained, you go to the exit and the level is complete. Next, we're gonna go to the zoo. Here, our 2 partners in crime have to get through this hippo pool. You know, I always thought hippos were supposed to be dangerous. All that has to be done is hurt this one and he'll stop chomping. But the water? Nah, that stuff is like lava. It's like these 2 are the Wicked Witch of the West. You end up losing most of your health when these nasty fall in it. Inside the monkey coop, make your way to the bird cage at the end while avoiding the family of apes. The big ones like to throw banana peels, while the small ones just walk into you. I always enjoyed the aviary. Our boys start off by getting pumped full of air, then it's off to the skies. It's kinda funny, you use their farts to push them in the direction that they're facing. They are able to stay hovering because in cartoon logic, if you get inflated with air, you kinda turn into a balloon. Duh. Anyways, there's these birds that try to fly in the way, but they can easily be avoided as long as you just avoid their pattern. Watch out for these screaming ones though. They'll scream you and push you into the walls, causing you to bounce all over the place and maybe even hit some of these thorns. Before you leave, make sure you don't forget the gauge, otherwise you won't be able to leave. Our next stop is the city. Here we will be repeatedly ascending and descending the city's numerous buildings. One of these buildings appears to still be under construction. Huh, looks like the construction workers might have even forgot to turn off the jackhammers and the floating beams? Next you're on a high-speed chase. This animal control worker is chasing Ren and Stimpy, but luckily they pulled this pink double bicycle out of nowhere. Remember, it's a cartoon. This crazy son of a dog catcher is going to run our poor dog and cat over unless we manage to hop all over these Mr. Horse cars. I think it's either him or his family is visiting and they all drive the same car. Or maybe it's just a cartoon and maybe we shouldn't think too hard about it. Finally, just jump over these potholes and you will find the thingy. Of all the places for the TV to have ended up, and it's at the pound. This place is crawling with animal control workers and bulldogs. In this second part, you will have to ascend this course containing pipes with slime dripping down, and several swinging spike balls. Next, just avoid being crushed by this weight. The boss for this stage is a wrestler. Our heroes are no match for him, so don't even think about taking him on. That's gonna just be a huge mistake. It's most likely best to just avoid him altogether. Once the timer runs out, the TV will fall and you can just grab it. The next stage has to be the most f***ed up. The outdoors. You start off in this field of eyeballs. There's logs floating in the sky. There's also trees that cry. Don't you hate it when you're just walking outside and the trees just start crying on you and it hurts? There are even humongous flies everywhere. Some pretty gross looking teeth. What the f*** is that coming out of those gums? Worms? And in this second part, there's these giant Stimpy nose hairs that you have to climb up. There's floating platforms with bottomless pits under them. There's even big mouths spitting rocks and goodies up into the sky. For this part, you have to get on this bike that can fly. Just avoid being hit. The gizmo's gonna be spat out by one of these mouths. The last level's honestly pretty short. Our boys start off in this tube filled with some nasty looking green slime. Who would have thought? Nickelodeon and slime? The only way out of this tube is by jumping on these bubbles. Be careful not to stand on them too long, otherwise they will burst. I find it's best to just keep jumping the whole way and just switch to a different bubble if your bubble's about to burst. Next we have to avoid these electrical currents and Christmas lights that hurt you whenever they light up. Once we finally reach the end, we are met with our final task. To shut off the machine. Kinda anticlimactic if you ask me, but just stand on these switches and avoid the electrical current. And that's all there is to this one. So maybe it's not the greatest game, and maybe nostalgia's just a heavy drug, but I think this one is worth checking out. If you happen to have a spare 30 to 50 minutes on you, that is. You even get these two dancing to the theme song on stage for you.